step is submitting your idea plan by this Monday, March 4th at 5 p.m. And you can log into your TeamMaker account. You just answer the questions, fill out the information, which is based off of the workshop series. So if you become in the workshops, if you're filling out your toolkit, all of that information will translate nicely into your idea plan. If you have questions about it or want me to read over it for you before you submit it, I'm happy to do that. But just make sure you submit it by March 4th, which is this Monday by 5 p.m. So once you submit them, excuse me, we send out the idea plans to people in our network we call readers. So we have 2 readers read and score each idea plan. And then the DifferenceMaker team gets together, we read through those scores. The readers will also give you feedback so that you can improve your idea plan. And then, so the DifferenceMaker team gets together and we choose the top 30 to 35 teams to then move on to the preliminary pitch off. So you really want to focus on doing a good job on your idea plans so you can get one of the higher scores so that you can move on to the pitch competition. So once the semi-finalist teams are chosen, I will email actually everybody on March 18th with the semi-finalists, so the teams that will move on to the preliminary pitch-off. So, and I'll also send the semi-finalist teams next steps. So for example, we're going to do mandatory rocket pitch coaching, so it's actually a one-on-one session with me or another DifferenceMaker faculty fellow or mentor, and we basically walk through your PowerPoint, we edit it for you, we pretend like we're a judge, so you pitch to us, we ask you questions, and that has been fairly helpful to our DifferenceMaker team, so we want to keep that up. So that is mandatory. We'll send out a doodle poll to your email, and you can just sign up through the doodle poll link for about a 30-minute session, and then we'll meet with you on that. So any questions on next steps? Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. So one last reminder for the research survey. Professor Evans had come into the first workshop to pitch. So her and I are doing a research study together. So you should have received an email with a link to a survey. The link takes about 10 minutes to complete. If you haven't completed it, please do so. She's going to be sending another reminder, I believe, either later this week or early next week. And if everyone on your team could complete it, that would be great, and that would be extremely helpful to us. So if you've completed it, but maybe the team leader hasn't, or your other team members haven't, please just remind them to complete it, because that would be helpful to us. And once you complete it, once the research study is over the next couple of weeks, she'll download the list she said, and then you'll get an electronic $5 gift card to Starbucks. So I know some students came to DifferenceMaker looking for the card, but it'll be sent to you through your email. All right, any questions about that? And then with that, I'm going to pass it off to your guest speakers for this evening, Professor Veilleux and Professor Ciuchta.
Hi. I've seen a million faces out there. Some of you have been in my classes, or I've seen some of you through the DifferenceMaker program. So thanks for coming tonight. Can everyone hear me okay? I'd rather not use the microphone. If you can't hear me, raise your hand and I'll definitely speak up. So tonight you're here to work on your rocket pitch. How many times have you stood in front of someone who's trying to tell you about an idea that they have, and they are talking in a way where they haven't really organized their thoughts, and you're staring at them wondering to yourself, what exactly are you trying to say to me? What are you trying to sell to me? What are you trying to ask me to do? Well, this is the event that you're at today to try to help you organize your thoughts and work on your rocket pitch. It'll be a quick 5-minute pitch that you're making in 4 to 6 slides to describe to people your idea. And it's not just your idea, it's the problem that you have confronted, or the problem that you're trying to solve, and who is affected by this problem, how you plan to solve it, and then what you need to solve the problem. So that's what we're going to work on tonight. We're going to go through each step of the process. Michael and I will go through each step of the process, and we're going to In front of you, you should have the DifferenceMaker rocket pitch template. Does everyone have one of those? Man, I can't think very much. So it looks like this. And if you don't have one, raise your hand. No problem, I'm going to give you mine. But I know they got more out front, and Holly, I'm sure, can grab some to bring in. But work with this. Anyone else not have one? Raise your hand. I think Holly's gone out to get more if you need some. So we'll work with that tonight. So the first step in the process, and I want you to start thinking about your idea now, is to, number one, define the problem. You all have these wonderful ideas. Problems you've encountered, problems you see in the world, and you want to try to solve those problems. But in order to get other people to understand your idea, you have to think about the best way to clearly state your problem. And in doing so, you really have to think about who's affected by this problem. So take a couple minutes and just think about that. Who's affected by your problem? The problem that you see. How many people? Is it a certain geographical area? Is it a certain age range? What is it? And how exactly are they affected by this problem? And why do we want to solve the problem? Why does it matter? You need to get into details, but you don't want to overwhelm people with too many details that they kind of lose sight of the problem that you're trying to solve. So take a couple minutes and think about this. And is anybody comfortable with telling us about your idea or your problem that you're trying to solve? Volunteers. Someone here has got to be comfortable with that. Thank you. You knew it, Louis. I was going to come right over to you if I didn't get a volunteer.
I was going to.
Thank you.
What do we do now?
Well, just not your pitch, but like tell everybody in the room the problem that you have identified.
All right, yeah. All right, so.
Thank you.
So there's a few problems that like my product or solution like solves, but like the major thing is like people are just bad at money management in general. We're trying to narrow it down like what age bracket that is and like who we want to market to. Because if you don't, like you'll fail if you're marketing to everyone. Like you gotta kind of get that a little closer. So the actual problem with the problems would be like people don't have enough money for retirement, people don't have enough money for the short term or the long term, or for any amount of planning, buying a house or car, any sort of sustainability, investing in the future. And that needs to change, and we got to kind of figure out where that is. But like our target market is 18 to 23, or 18 to 33, or 32. So for the most part, it's short-term saving, investing, donating, help the community, help yourself, just to be happier.
So Louis has stated the importance of knowing how to save money and to. No, go ahead. You can sit down. I hear from what you said to me is that you want to get people to learn how to save money, how to invest their money, right? So why is that important? What happens if people don't save or invest money?
Go.
Yeah.
So the basis is like if you don't invest, then so because of inflation is such a crazy rate, if you don't invest, then your money is worth less in the future, and it's worth like substantially less to the point that if you go back like 40 years ago, $1 million is worth $15 million. It was the reverse of that. But that's what we're facing in the future. If we're not ready for that problem, then it's going to be like anarchy. None of us have any money. But already we're seeing that people don't. And if you don't invest at a young age at this time, and we think it's not important, when it's the easiest to invest, then you'll never invest in the future, and that's a major problem.
And it matters why.
Why does it matter?
Yeah, why does it matter? I mean, isn't it okay? I mean, why don't we all just not have money and we can get through life without having any money or any kind of nest egg there for us or investments?
So you lack of the capital and the assets, you won't be able to provide the life you want for yourself or your children grandchildren. You also won't be able to like give to causes that are local in our community that people care about. And you will just lack freedom in general because we are very capitalistic.
Okay, so it says you may lack freedom, you may not have choices, right? So you've kind of set forth the problem, you've set forth some specifics, it sounds like he's working on it, he's polishing it, who's affected by it, why it is important to solve the problem, so that we do have freedom, so that you do have choices as you get older. And he's gone through some of the details. So he just stood up and in a rough way identified the problem, but did so very very well being on the spot. So he's already, I'd say, about 1/5 of the way into his rocket pitch already.
All right, so a couple, before we leave the problem slide, couple of other points I want to make out. So one's kind of a couple big picture and then maybe one more tactical. And so one's going to, how you address the pitch itself. So on the tactical side, some of you may be inclined to do this and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You have to come up, you have to speak in front of people. And oftentimes when you're trying to frame the problem, I've seen many pitches where they'll want to start with a question. How many of you have mismanaged their money? How many of you have had a lousy peak? Something like that where you pose it to the audience. And I'm just giving you a heads up that sometimes is a sort of a risky way to start your pitch. It can work, it works well, it works really well. But sometimes when people throw that out there, they're met with crickets, and it's kind of like all of a sudden they get phased. They don't get the response they wanted to. So if you are going to go with that approach, then make sure you practice it with people and see that you're getting the kind of response that you anticipate. Second sort of big picture, as I said, all this, we're going to come back to this point in a bit, it's all about telling a story. So all these, we're going to talk about this in discrete parts, like the problems, the solution, the opportunity, the resources, but it all has to fit together in some kind of comprehensive and cohesive story. So that's really what I want you to be thinking about also, is how does this thing all fit together? And we're going to have examples. We're going to watch people do, competitors, pitch their ideas, and you get to evaluate them and think about them. And the last thing is on the problem, you obviously want to be honest, so you're going to have to show, if you can, metrics. Michelle talked about that. You want to actually have some demonstrable numbers. But sort of the bigger the problem, the better. And so big problems can be defined different ways. And so one, it can be, well, actually, what would be evidence of a big problem? You don't have to give me a specific example, but what would make something seem like a big problem? How would you determine if a problem is big?
It affects a lot of people.
Yeah, so one is going to be it affects a lot of people, right? And there's maybe another way. Maybe it doesn't affect a lot of people, but what?
Costs a lot of money.
I'm not going to say it costs a lot of money.
It affects them in a large way.
Yeah, it affects them, right, so it affects them in a big way. And so Lewis can, when he does, he can maybe approach both of those, right? He can demonstrate the number of people that affects, could be a big number, and then he can also demonstrate how severe the problem is for those people it affects. Okay, so you've got a problem, and now what I want you to do is think about how you're going to assess the opportunity. And hopefully you'll see on the prior slide, it does sort of dovetail into this one. So now it's really you're understanding, you're demonstrating you understand more who the people are who are affected by this problem. So this gets to this question of how big the problem is. Now is where you want to demonstrate, okay, it affects a lot of people. You want to have specific numbers if you can. You want to have metrics. You want to show that you've done research, you've thought about this in a big way. Similarly, you may want to think about, okay, maybe you have a few cases. You have a very, a personal case, you know someone where that's going to be very impactful as well. Maybe that you can, and that's one of the videos that we show, I think, has this, where the person had firsthand experience to solve a problem in a firsthand experience, and that's also can be very impactful. So that's a great way to also show that you've got knowledge of it, you identify with the opportunity, and so those are kind of dovetail off of what we covered in the first slide. But here's also where you're going to talk about competition. And none of you should get up here and say, well, we don't have any competition. Right? The judges, if they hear that, they're going to go, okay, this person hasn't done their homework. Everybody, from Google to Facebook, you name the company, you name these companies, right? They all have competition. So here's what you want to demonstrate. You've done something. Now, it doesn't mean if you have competition, you should stop. By all means, that doesn't mean that at all, right? But what you want to do is demonstrate that you understand who the competitors out there. And more importantly than that, so you identify who these competitors are. But the main thing that what you really want to highlight is, okay, well, why is what they're doing not sufficient, right? And one of the things, and also one competitor you should always think about also is, who? The idea is, everyone, many of you are going to have this competitor, and you may not realize this or not. What's that?
Ourselves.
Yeah, exactly, right? You're solving, people are solving the problem themselves, right? So this, the user, whoever it is, the person who's affected with the problem, isn't using anything other than their own means or whatever. But then you're going to come in and have to show why that's not such a great approach either. So for all these competitors and the person using it themselves, then you want to be able to identify why there are weaknesses in these approaches. So how are the people affected with the problem, dealing with it, and then why are those current solutions? And I mean, let me stress, at this point, you have not told us what your solution is. So that's very tempting. I would say that there's one thing that most teams are going to do when they start this process, and maybe even well into it, is you all got this great idea, and you want to keep the people with that idea right away. And you get too far into the sort of details of the idea, and then the people listening to your pitch get really confused, because they don't even know what this is addressing, right? So you want the audience, the listeners, to actually be anticipating what you're going to finally hit them with, which is your solution. So here you're just identifying the weaknesses for the current, how the solution is currently being addressed. So again, what we want you to do is think about your own individual, and presumably they've all covered all this before, right? So you've had these broken down, so these aren't mysteries to you. This is just telling you, you all heard this before. Now we're just trying to get you to synthesize that thinking. You only have 5 minutes. 5 minutes goes by like that. So what I want you to do now, if you can, spend some time thinking about your own individual opportunities. You may have not done the research in terms of the numbers, but think about who's affected by the problem that you're addressing, and also how is that problem being addressed currently. So,
Might I just add in one?
Sure.
So kind of a real life DifferenceMaker example is Veilleux, which you may have seen. So this is my Veilleux. So they won a couple of years ago. It's a jewelry safety app button. So going back to competitors, they did an amazing job because there are so many competitors in the marketplace, like other jewelry pieces that are black and shiny. And so the judges kept asking, well, how are you different? And theirs is probably the most nice looking, so most fashionable. And they implemented a GPS tracking, so a lot of the buttons that they saw weren't GPS tracked. So if someone, they stole you, abducted you, put you in a car, and the car is driving away, it would go to the nearest cell phone tower, so that's where the police or your emergency contacts will show up. But now, as long as your phone location is turned on, wherever you have the Invisware with your phone, it can track you. So they were able to make it, I'm sure Tom talked about this last week about how are you, more efficient or faster or less expensive or more fashionable. So you really want to think about that competitive edge. So I know some of you had some questions about, oh, I found someone who's doing something very similar to what I'm doing. Like Professor Ciuchta said, it doesn't matter because you can do it better. It's just the way of phrasing it. And if you need help with that, I'm always here to help you. But that's just kind of a real life example of a DifferenceMaker team who was able to succeed, even though there were tons of other competitors in the marketplace. So there is promise for you. So.
yeah, in fact, if you find that other people doing something very similar, it's actually a good thing, right? Because you're actually onto a good idea, probably. So who wants to volunteer to tell us a little bit how their problem is currently being addressed right now? Or I'll call on you. Won't call on you. So I'm going to hear from someone else. Okay, you.
They told me to be quiet.
Okay, go for it.
So for now, we're trying to solve the problem with time in the grocery stores, right? And for now, they're trying to implement either Amazon Go stores where you just go and grab and go, or self-checkout systems that they try to get rid of all of the lines, but using this technology with that. For some of the stores, they're using the scanning gun as well. So we have a competitor. Again, different approaches.
Okay, good. And so now, so now you just by you telling me, I'm like, That's true, that's true. So what do you do? I want to hear what you're going to do.
Yeah, no.
Right, so exactly right. So who else?
You got us interested.
Who else? You're all going to have to do this at some point. So it's good to hear now in front of, we should be a relatively friendly audience. The judges are going to be friendly for the most part. But it's best to practice. You have to practice. So who wants to volunteer? You? You guys volunteering? No? You look like you were ready to get up and say something. Who else? You guys?
No, we're still
No. You're still arguing?
Yeah.
What are you arguing about? Tell us what you're arguing about.
We're trying to figure out what exactly our audience is.
Okay?
Because we have a pretty broad problem that we face ourselves in our just coursework and projects, and so we're trying to address something that could be affecting a wide range of people. So we're trying to narrow things down a bit.
So what's the problem you guys are addressing?
Can we not say?
You cannot say?
Yeah.
Why don't you want to say?
We're still trying to figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? All right. I guess we'll move on.
While we're going through this tonight, I know the food smells really good. So even though we're up here talking and going through this workshop, please get up. If you haven't had any of those lovely cheesecake items, if you want to grab some of those, and if you want seconds on your dinner or salad or something, go get it, please. Just keep going up there. So step 3 is to introduce your solution. You've now identified the problem. You've articulated the opportunity. And now the listener, the judges, the people that you're pitching to, want to know, okay, so what is your solution? And at this point, you're probably just about midway through your pitch because you have about 5 minutes. So as you identify your solution, you want to make sure that you very clearly and succinctly identify and describe your solution. You're going to have to really try to do that in narrow terms. And what's good to try to explain it to people, if you have a visual. So if on your slide you're able to put up the visual on your slide, or if it's something that you're using that can be held, and we'll show you through an example, demonstrate it. Have someone in your team get up there and demonstrate it so that everybody that's listening to you can see it and learn by watching you demonstrate it. We've seen apps up on slides. We've seen tools used through pitches. And it helps people to clearly understand and then even formulate questions to ask you about your pitch. And as you're doing this, you want to do it with your team, but then you want to do it with people that don't know anything about your idea. Because they're the people that are going to come up with questions that the judges or other people might ask you. You already know everything about your idea. You're working on it, your idea, right? But you want to make this pitch to people and describe your solution to people that don't know anything about what you're doing. Because that will help you to understand what might be going through the judges' minds or other people's minds, and it might help you further articulate your pitch better. So that's a good experience. You want to explain what differentiates you from the market. So you there with the grocery store example, you've explained what the market is, what's out there, and in this part of your pitch, you want to talk about why your idea is different from what's already out there and why it's better. And then you need to talk about how this idea will continue to grow, how the solution will grow, how it will sustain itself. So is anyone comfortable, even though we may not get here, about your problem and the
Okay, before we get on to this one, I'll actually backtrack because these guys reminded me of two things actually. So one is this issue about having, this goes back to sort of identifying the opportunity and your market, your target market. And it sounds like they have potentially different target markets. And so many of you are going to encounter that. You've identified a solution maybe before you've actually thought through the whole problem. And then when you get to identifying who the target market is, you realize there's actually potentially different target markets. And that's great. I mean, that's a good problem to have. But when you do present, you want to be pretty focused. So you want to kind of think, make your best case. Doesn't mean you're not going to change. In fact, those entrepreneurs and our teams are going to potentially go after one target market and pivot to another one. That's fine, but you want to be as focused as you can on when you're pitching the idea. Second thing that point they raised that I thought was also kind of good to raise in this setting is this notion of talking about your idea in front of people. Maybe you've encountered this before. I don't know, maybe they talked about this here before. But many of you are reluctant to do that, in part because you don't want people to steal your idea. It's a new idea, you haven't really fleshed it out yet, and so you're kind of reluctant. But eventually you are going to have to talk to people, and you have to get comfortable, yes, you might be telling them about your idea, and yes, they might try and go run with it themselves, but you've got to have the confidence in yourself to know that if you can execute better than they ever could. And so I'll tell you, it's a brief little story. I think we have definitely time before the snow hits. So I was teaching in the school down in UCF in Florida, entrepreneurship course, and we had to do a competition, a pitch competition, just sort of like what you guys do in your class. And these two guys got up and pitched various ideas, the whole class did. But one guy pitched this idea for a hummus company. The other guy pitched something else, which I can't remember. And then the two guys got together and decided to pursue the hummus idea in the subsequent class. And then turns out eventually, and I show this Shark Tank episode in some of my classes, maybe some of you have seen it. Have you ever seen there's a Shark Tank episode with Odang Hummus? The guy from his name is Jesse Wolf. He pitches the idea. So he was not the original founder. And so what happened is not the guy who got the idea. The first dude came to me and said, look, you know, this was my idea. I partnered up with this other guy, and now he stole my idea. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, it sounds like he went with the idea, pursued it, and executed on it, and you did it, right? And that's generally what happened. So you as a team also need to be thinking about that too. You know, it's important to have, so I teach entrepreneurship, I teach classes about team formation, things like that. You need to be thinking about, okay, who owns this idea? Are we really a team? If this thing doesn't move forward, who's going to do it? And that's where I'm getting into this resources slide. So you should be having those discussions. So you should be comfortable definitely talking amongst yourself, but eventually you also have to be talking about it to other people. So, okay. So the guy who did go on Odang Hummus, he actually did really successfully. He pitched, he got an offer. That offer never materialized, but he lined up a bunch of deals with Publix, a large grocery store down there. So he's done really well. So resources. So all of you are going to need resources, unless you're really, really filthy rich, right? And none of us, unfortunately, well, most of us probably don't fit in that category. And that's partly why you're here. So you're partly here to do this competition, acquire resources that can help you take this idea forward. So this is the last part where you really want to be, and you want to hear again, you want to be specific. The judges want to know that you thought this thing through. And one of the things that'll come up, and so you may want to incorporate this into your pitch somehow if you can, because generally when I've seen a lot of these, it does come up from the judges, is it's not clear, and this is from when the people are pitching, what kind of business this is going to be. So right now, a lot of us are talking about having ideas and solutions and the market out there for it, but we haven't really talked about how the organization is going to look. And so a common thing that will come up when I hear pitches like yours is, well, is this a nonprofit or is this a for-profit? So you should have a pretty clear understanding amongst yourselves which of those two approaches you want to take. Neither's fine. You just should have a firm understanding. Because a lot of times people pitch something, I think in their mind they're thinking like it's a for-profit business, but to the judges are hearing, this sounds like a non-for-profit type of business. So have a clear understanding of what type of business it is, and then also have, again, pretty good understanding of who's on the team, what you each bring to the team. We haven't talked about that yet, so you might want to throw that in on this slide too. You're going to introduce yourselves, but the judges want to know why you guys are the right team to carry this thing forward, and do you have a plan to actually carry it forward? Is it just sort of going to die when you graduate or something? So it's important that you can convey how this thing's going to be sustainable, if that's what your intention is. So what things do you need? So you're probably going to need money, right? They want to know what you're going to do with that money. And they want to have a pretty clear understanding, again, that you're fairly specific. So this applies not just in these competitions, but applies to any sort of pitch setting. You're going to raise money from venture capitalists or angels, and there's different people tell you different things. So some people say, I want to hear a range. Other people say, no, I want you to be very specific. I personally think the more specific you are, the better. So same with this thing. If you want, what you're going to do when you get these funds, how are you going to put them to use to help sustain this thing going forward? So that's it. How would you win? And you want to have an idea for a budget. So again, how this is demonstrating to the judges that you've thought through how this thing is going to be sustainable. You've got a source of funds coming in from the competition, how it's going to be deployed, what you're going to spend the money on. But then also, where's the revenue going to be coming in, or the donations if it's a nonprofit? Where's the revenue stream that's going to sustain this thing going forward, if that's your intention? So, has anyone thought about where they'd actually be spending the money, or what they'd like to spend the money on in terms of their own particular projects? Okay. Okay.
And also for some legal resources,
What was the last thing? Okay.
and also marketing.
That's a lot. And those are pretty common ones, right? If you don't have a coder on your team, you're finding a software engineer. If you have software, you think you have intellectual property, you probably want to secure patent for intellectual property. What else? Anybody else have any ideas? Okay.
So we need to like establish the prototype and stuff. So we're gonna need like to buy the cards and all the sensors and stuff.
Okay.
Scanners, also, yeah.
Great. So that if you can, again, so you know what you need, the more specific you can be in terms of how much it's actually going to cost, and then that goes to this last part here about a budget. So you're going to want to show, and most of you, what you get out of this, presumably, if you're talking about hiring software engineers or patent attorneys or developing a prototype, you're going to need extra funds at some point, right? So, but that's fine. Most startups are going to need additional money. But you need to show how this is going to help you get you to that next phase. So, I don't know, do you have anything else on this one?
Well, what I've observed is, at different competitions, is there are some teams that underestimate how much they need. And so you really should give this some thought about all the different facets of your plan. And, we talked about intellectual property, we talked about marketing, program development. And so talk about it with other people too, that might be able to say to you, well, an intellectual attorney is going to cost this much or something. Just a range of that, because I see a lot of students that underestimate the total amount in that budget that they put for that first year, maybe 2019 to maybe 2020. Because what that tells the judges is that you really understand how much is involved in executing your plan and your idea. But without having all of that, then I think they begin to wonder if you really understand how much you need to execute. That's all I got.
The resource piece is one of the big pieces, the one-on-one rocket pitch coaching that will help you with as well.
Right.
So if you have questions about that, that's why we need to be one-on-one.
And I think I've seen that because I've done some individual
Yeah.
rocket pitch coaching, and I have seen it at that level too. And it's good because then you go in eyes wide open, and I think the judges have confidence that you really understand the fullness of your idea.
So we're going to have some examples in a second, but I guess maybe it's a great time to sort of pause, make sure no one, does anybody have any questions about anything that we've sort of, we're rocket pitching right through this thing, so we're going through pretty fast, but if anyone has any specific questions about anything that we mentioned or didn't mention?
How long would the actual presentation be?
5 to 6, what is it, 5 minutes? 5 minutes plus,
5 minutes.
plus,
Plus 5 minutes
plus
of Q&A.
5 minutes Q&A. And so you'll see with examples. So your pitch is going to be this 5 to 6 slides. Doesn't mean you only prepare 5 to 6. You're going to have some backup slides potentially for the Q&A. Anything else? So his point, to address his point is practice. You're going to need to practice and practice and practice again. You cannot practice too much. And one thing you really want to practice the whole thing. So you definitely want to be, have a good delivery, you don't want to be monotone, but you really want to practice the beginning, right? So that's the part where when you get up there, you're going to be nervous, and you're going to be like, you know, if you're going to get stuck, it's probably going to be at the beginning. So you want to have that beginning down really good. Okay. So you all have the template. So what we're going to do now is go through some examples. And we want you to do, as we go through these, is we're going to kind of ask you now you can take a sigh of relief. Okay, I don't think I'm talking about my own idea. You can critique other people's ideas, which everyone's generally more comfortable doing that. So we're going to go and show you an example of just a slide presentation first, and then we're going to actually have two prior competitors in DifferenceMaker competition, and we actually have the video, so you'll watch them present, and then we'll pause and we'll talk about like where were they good, where were they not so good, and kind of use the template as a guide. Sound good? All right. So this is just I want to do this one. This is we have to do this before the best life. This
You want me to do the rest?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is a pitch where we thought driving around campus. Look at all these kids around campus. The cost of college is already extremely high. Whether you are financing your college or your parents are financing your college, maybe as an undergrad you might pay $14,000, $15,000 for tuition and about $12,000, $13,000 to live, either in dorms or an apartment, right? That's a lot of money. Well, also, while driving around Lowell, looked and thought about older people too, and the cost of assisted living. We all have older relatives, grandparents, aunts, uncles. They might end up needing to go into some kind of assisted living facility. And the cost of that is quite high too in Massachusetts. It's roughly, on the low end, $5,300 a month. So that's a lot of money being spent. So we have a problem. The problem is we have a lot of college students around Lowell that spend a lot of money on their living expenses. We also have a lot of seniors that are needing a place to live where they're getting some care, or there's somebody there to take care of their needs, because they can't shovel their driveway, or they can't drive to go get their own groceries.
So let's pause there. So how well do we think this one did in terms of just the slide, the content, and the
Critique
so
me.
how well did look at your template there? How well did we cover the problem issue there? What could we have done better? What did you like about what you heard or saw?
Who wants to take a shot?
All right, it seems maybe a little vague on who's experiencing the problem. So the college student himself and the elderly person who's dealing with the problem themselves, unless they're sitting there on an insurance side street, which I guess is possible, unfortunately. And the same for the college student. Like they're likely with like resources. I know we have like food banks here, but they're likely getting by. But it's like who's really feeling that? Is it the parents? Should they have used FAM? Should they have invested more?
He said, should they have used, what's it called, FAM?
Yeah.
Should they have invested more so they have more money for their senior living expenses? Anyone else have a comment or constructive criticism? Yes? Right? So what would have helped you in this first part? Yep.
Right, not only pictures, but also, and this one, so this, you're all gonna potentially have different boundaries around how to redefine the market. So this one, they're definitely just addressing the problem here in Lowell, right? So there's clearly, we could have thrown some statistic at you. How many students are we talking about? How many elderly are we talking about, right? So, and maybe you say, okay, well, maybe you're gonna see that in a later slide, right? But in the back of your mind, if you don't see it, you should be wondering, where is that? So, but good, that's very good, right? And maybe even you could have used just a personal example, just again, where something, if you have a personal anecdote from someone you know or experience or some family member, right? That you could maybe incorporate that into your own pitch.
You could see click to add text, and if you're doing a presentation, you don't want something like that to pop up.
Yeah, okay, great, very good, in terms of the actual style, right, okay?
Approved it. Anyone else? All right, should
All right.
I move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So both of these problems that I've articulated can be solved with just one solution. We have about 38% of homes in Lowell that are around the university that are owned by aging empty nesters. And they're between the ages of, say, 50 and 70. So they live in these big houses, and they're getting older, and they may not be able to do all the things that they could do for themselves. And we have students around the university. So there's an opportunity there to take the two problems and try to solve them. Any comments so far? Yes.
Well, I would say that the text is pretty distracting because one's like really big and then one's really small.
Yes.
It's probably just really wordy or the aesthetics is a little off.
Excellent. Do you see how many words are on here? And then there's sort of this image. So you've got to think about that when you're creating your slides. What's eye-catching and what helps people understand both the problem, the opportunity, and the solution? So is there any suggestion as to how we could have changed this slide? Bullet points. Say that again? Bullet points. Bullet points made up in how bigger text, maybe some images of the college student with the older person around the house. Something like that. Being able to see it come together. Yes.
So it was like the 10, 20, 30 rule instead of pitching. So it's like 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30 size font. So the 30 font isn't there. Also, coming from like a plowing background, that should have been maybe a snowy house to really emphasize.
Oh, right, the problem. That's right, I forgot that you plow. That's right, the problem. Yeah, like a snow-filled driveway, right? Maybe an elderly person who isn't as mobile, but can still live on their own.
Maybe like rather than the house, you could have like a pie chart showing the data.
Excellent. Pie charts are great. Sometimes with colors too, right? It helps us understand. All great ideas. And I hope that this works for you as you're creating your own slides. So how does it work? Well, we've come up with ResGen 21 that will develop an online registry that allows college-age students and aging baby boomers to find each other. A match made in heaven. It sounds funny? She says it sounds fun. She wants to do it. So, pause. What do you think about this so far? We have just talked about how the solution is made, how we solve the problem. You missed it. A lot of questions. Okay, this is good because I need to hear your questions because then on my backup slides, I might be able to refer you to the statistics or the information that shows that I have sort of anticipated your questions. So what's one of your questions?
I mean, at least like my grandmother definitely does not know how to use the internet, so I have no idea.
Fantastic! I should have thought of that. Right? Because that's what a judge would probably think.
Right.
Excellent.
Over here.
See, she's saying safety issues. Safety issues. So maybe do we need to do background checks? Should I have thought about that? Do we need to work that into the solution?
So her question is the safety issue, which could potentially come up for a lot of things. So how might you address that? And maybe, so again, what you want to be thinking about also is potentially to draw in other analogies, right? So where other things, not necessarily your idea itself, but some other things that have been out there that have maybe confronted the same problem or question about, and so safety is going to be one of these potentially. And so how are some other companies, how have they done, how other companies have faced this issue? Not necessarily in this space. What other companies have faced concerns about safety, or I guess it's really about safety? It's very common now.
Airbnb.
Yeah, exactly, right? The all sharing economy based on this question about safety, right? So if that kind of question comes up, you go, okay, well, I thought this thing through, and we're basically going to be like the Airbnb of students and, elderly, right? So that's the kind of thing where you can draw on other examples where other entities have been out there and they've confronted the same kind of question you might get. And you say, okay, well, this is a very common now in the sharing economy. So great, very good.
Good point. Anyone else? So how are we gonna get Res Gen 21 started? Well, we figure we need about $2,000 for developing and hosting the registry for the first year, $1,500 for promoting the service in the community, and then we're gonna need about $1,500 to cover liability insurance. Because we understand we could have some liability insurance. Yes?
Yearly budget is probably between $40 and $50 million.
So-
Your burn rate's probably $8 million in a month, depending on insurance and how big you are.
So Lewis has pointed out that I probably underestimated my budget. Is there anything you can see that I didn't think of, that we didn't think of? When we came up with this idea. Yes, sir?
Who's liable for the insurance? Is it the school or is it the elderly person?
Okay, so does the homeowner hold the liability insurance? Does the student need to get liability insurance? Is somehow the university involved in this? We're gonna work through that, right? We're gonna figure that out and make sure that we clearly articulate that. Yes, sir? Speak up. A total. Yeah, I should have a total. I should be able to show my budget for the first year and then what we might need to sustain ourselves, right? So we haven't done that yet. Yes, ma'am.
Again, it's very big.
Right, so this is what the judges are thinking when you're making work that you haven't gone through the work to accurately put forward all of the expenses and think about what you might need. You're all raising all good comments and questions.
Well, one thing this also highlights is that oftentimes it's easier to start small, start locally, right? So you can get your arms around the kind of numbers that we're talking about. We're just going to deal with Lowell area. It's probably a lot easier to at least get the metrics, but also then the expenses are a lot smaller, right? So then you maybe show where you would scale this on a larger extent. So then you get to these $1 million burn rates. But the many ideas you're going to have, you can start very small and start locally, and it's a good way to test the idea. In fact, most people probably should start smaller than they sometimes do. So this, again, you want to be realistic. So that when you go and present to the judges, you want to come up with, this gets you a question. Well, where are you getting these numbers from? Are you just pulling these out of the air? So to the extent you can get real concrete evidence of what's going to support the numbers you show, that's great.
Questions? We've stopped for questions along the way, but other questions? No, I think you did a good job of asking the questions along the way. So now, there were some slides that we had here in case there were questions about how we figured out the aging population. These are the kind of slides that are referenced as being put in like an appendix, so that you try to anticipate the questions that the judges are going to ask, and it's okay to have more slides that you can use and refer to if the questions come up. So when you asked, how did you come up with these numbers, Well, I want to be able to go to a slide to figure out and show them the work and research that we did to come up with the numbers.
But at the same time, you don't want to be like back-ending your whole presentation into a bunch of slides that you don't come to, right? And then because to the extent if you have to go and, maybe once or twice you could use for the Q&A, but that's going to go by fast too. And if you're spending all your time, trying to go through and find the right slide that has the right information, you're using up some valuable time. So now we have a couple examples. So we're going to watch the video of them actually giving the pitch, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll watch, probably best just watch the whole thing through. Then we'll do the same thing. As you watch this pitch, think about how well they address the problem, the opportunity, the solution, and the resources, and then we'll talk about it. And then we have the slides, which we can go over. Then they're actually, I don't know if you can see their slides that well in the video.
Thanks, Molly.
So, how many people here today know someone who's had back pain? People with back pain are actually within the majority because non-impact injuries like back pain are at epidemic levels. The American Pain Foundation tells us that up to 80% of us will experience back pain at one point in our lives, and up to 27 million Americans are suffering from back pain every single year. The American Medical Association tells us that since 2004, we have more than doubled the amount of money spent towards these issues, and on top of that, the American population are reporting more pain and more disability related to the issues. We're spending up to $86 billion related to issues that don't even trace back to a severe injury or a severe illness. And as rehab specialists, what we're starting to see is people have completely lost their ability to move properly through the hips while maintaining proper spinal posture and breathing mechanics. Now, we tend to try to correct these issues with things like verbal cues, but we still often see a disconnect between how we would like the client and patient to move and how they actually move. But that's not their fault, because verbal cues mean absolutely nothing until you can actually feel what we're talking about. So we truly believe, in order to eliminate this disconnect between client and professional, and to help take people out of this unnecessary pain epidemic, is to bring verbal cues to life, so that you can actually feel what it's like to move well, and so that it's no longer just a verbal cue. If you're someone that loves to be in complete control of your own body, while constantly reassuring yourself that right versus wrong during exercise and training, then you are going to absolutely love the new innovative product that our team has developed for both rehabilitation and injury prevention. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you the 3-point stick, a precisely engineered collapsible dowel with a slot to accommodate dual elastic breathing straps. You feel the breathing straps expand and contract around your abdomen, assuring you of proper abdominal breathing mechanics. Maintain 3 contact points with the dowel to assure you of proper spinal posture, and feel yourself lose a point of contact as you come out of proper alignment so you can immediately self-correct your own movement. The 3-point stick is already proven to work. It's patent pending. It's free of complicated technology, free of sensors, and free of batteries. We have a doctor and 2 expert physical therapists supporting this product and have already expressed the fact that we, as a profession, need this product. Currently, our target market will be movement professionals, consisting of about 500,000 professionals as of right now, and estimated to be about 700,000 professionals by the year 2020. We will need funding for LLC formation, trademarking, manufacturing and production, marketing material, and further developing our marketing model in order to bring the 3-point stick to the people, to help reduce healthcare costs, and to bring people to a level of function that they've never thought possible. Ladies and gentlemen, the 3-point stick represents a higher standard for movement quality, and if brought to the market, I promise you, the 3-point stick will make a difference. Thank you.
How well did they define the problem? Explain the problem. Did you understand what the problem was? First of all, did you see, as Professor O'Donnell mentioned to me, well, how did he start his presentation? With a question. Did it work? Why do you think it worked? Drew attention. Why else?
Something, positive response.
Did he get a positive response? He didn't really wait. My sense is he didn't really wait for the response, right? And he had the answer to the question himself.
Something to relate to.
Yeah. So that's right. So that was one, and he threw statistics at you right away. So whether or not a bunch of people raise their hand or not, he quickly gave you a bunch of statistics that said, well, whether you raise your hand or not, you probably do know something affected by this. All right, so how well did he tackle the problem? What is the problem? What is it? Back pain. right? How well do you think that he talked about it?
You lost statistics.
So, right, so in terms of the opportunity itself, how well did he present the opportunity? So why do you say that? Why do you say
Because
that?
he had, like, medical association, like he had solid facts that were backed up by like higher organizations.
Okay, he had statistics, he had evidence, maybe this gets more to the second slide, that he's got some expert opinions. What else? Anything up to this point you didn't like? Okay, so you like the fact that he was vague about that. Anybody else have a different opinion? I mean, generally you want to be, I mean, he had specific things that he mentioned, but he didn't have specific numbers, you're right, in terms of how much it would actually cost.
And remember there were slides behind.
Yeah, we're gonna show them the slides
Through the
also.
slides.
Yeah.
It was very quick. It was talking fast.
Was he practically, did he seem well rehearsed? Pretty well.
It was a very polished pitch.
Very
I don't
polished.
want it to intimidate anybody. It's probably the most polished, one of the most polished pitches.
How about the salute, Kate?
Then you kind of slow down a
He
little
was
bit.
really fast, right? He was really, really fast.
Yeah.
Okay? Many of you are gonna be fast. If you're nervous, you tend to be fast. You're gonna be fast, or you're gonna be so slow you're getting it started, right? So, you wanna find a happy medium. How about the solution? How well did they tackle that part? You had demonstration, right? Did you like the solution?
Necessarily.
Now, why not?
Because it had the stakes sticking up.
He raises this question, right? So what would, if you were a judge, what would you make, how would you maybe throw that as a question to the team?
If they have a different design.
Okay, well, but how about more a question about their specific design? And he kind of talked about this a little bit. So let's say he says, one of the judges say, I would never wear that thing, right? So frequently you're gonna get a response where someone's gonna say, I would never use that. How do you counter that?
Ask them, how would you make this product better?
Well, so that's one way, but let's say they're really convinced this is the right way.
Surveys, statistics.
Yeah, surveys, or they've had other surveys or user, focus groups, right? You've got people who demonstrated that they actually like it, right? And they actually use it.
One thing I want to mention is, it's okay if you don't have a problem. They came out, they identified the problem, they showed the solution to their problem they had, but you don't have to already have something to go out there and show. In some instances, it might help if you have something that's kind of complicated that you need to describe, but even just an image on a slide would be helpful, so that people can visualize what you're talking about. But I don't want you to think because that team went out with their problem, that you all have to have something. If one of your ideas is one that involves something that, is touchable, it's not necessarily to go on stage or something like that.
But if you do bring a prop, make sure it works, right? So
Yes.
again, this is a concept about practice. So if you have something, and this goes to when you're pitching your idea in real life too. So if you're not, this is not real life, but you're going to make a product demonstration. So typically what you want to do, and especially if you start talking about something that involves software, you're not going to probably want to go with the actual software because it's going to have bugs. You're going to create something that's a dumbed down version that can demonstrate what the product is and you have a solution. So you have a prop, make sure it works. If it's supposed to do something you want to demonstrate, make sure it can do it. Make sure that you know how to do it quickly. You don't have much time, so make sure you practice that.
Do we get the slides?
That's the slide.
Yeah.
So this was the first slide. But when they went out and started to describe the problem, this was their first slide. What do you think about this? It's interesting? Serious?
Mysterious.
Mysterious.
Why don't you like the pie chart? Well, I would actually say maybe the opposite, that maybe there's not enough data here. That, you know, it's kind of on its own, this thing's not, you have no idea what this is, right? And so you have, again, you try to find a happy medium between having too much information, not enough information. I think maybe this has like, you know, so you heard the problem, but there's nothing on here that tells you, the picture itself doesn't really help me know that this is addressing back pain, which is when we heard the pitch, it was all clear it was back pain. But again, if you go to sort of the real world where you're pitching these to a bunch of different investors, and potentially the judges also, the judges might go back and look at your slides, and they don't remember necessarily what your pitch is. So they're going to go and maybe fill out the slides, look at the slides, and go, yeah, this is the problem with the back pain. If I go back and look at this, I don't necessarily remember this is about back pain.
Right. It's hard to kind of tell. Looks like he's struggling by holding something heavy up over his head, but could they have identified back pain in a different way, in a different way? So, we're talking about verbal cues and the feelings. When they were out on the stage with the prop, do you think that that was helpful to describing the problem and the solution? Say it again.
It was off.
It was off. And so what do you mean? Describe what you mean.
It's a little bit confusing how they like why it's puzzled to people who do like this healing exercises. Why would you address it in this way? It's not a puzzle. You have pain, you have solutions. Why don't you just describe it?
So this, you find the slide to be confusing. They spoke well. I think a lot of you had said they spoke well, maybe a little too fast, right? But maybe they could have had a little more information on their slides, as you've identified, to help all of the listeners understand the problem. He was stating a lot of statistics and a lot of numbers and things, and maybe having them out on a slide would be helpful. Because if you're not able to follow him as he's speaking, you can read it out on the slide. Anything else?
No, but I kind of agree. Like in the pitch, overall, it's a very good pitch. But this link between the conversation about the verbal cues and the feel was the part that I didn't necessarily pick up on, and until they actually showed the solution. I go, okay, I guess that sort of makes sense.
So there's a slide with the 3-point stick. Then we had the live model out on the stage with a 3-point stick.
Wait.
Yes.
You mentioned 3 points of contact, so how to describe those like specific points.
Okay.
That would help there.
Good. So he said, mentioned 3 points of contact, but he didn't really describe them. Anyone else? Yes.
I feel like you can make this at home.
Say it again.
I can make this at home.
You can make this at home.
Yes. I mean, I like it. It's a good solution, but everyone can make a solution.
So what would be his response? I don't know this, maybe this came up. What, did you get a sense of this? I think I heard this in the pitch. What would be his response to that, potentially? Pick up on this? He had had talked about that, but I think, pretty sure he mentioned something else. In terms of, what's that?
Patentable.
He said patent pending, I think, right? So, did he say, I think he said patent pending. And if he did, then that would be a concern. So this means they've applied for a patent, right? So this would maybe address this concern. If something that someone can easily replicate, then it'd be something that you would want to potentially protect with intellectual property. So, okay.
One thing I picked up, and I'm not sure if I was listening to it, I listened to it a couple times though, but he did say it was patent pending. But then at the end, when he talked about expenses, he talked about for the trademark. So you want to make sure that you fully understand intellectual property. Because he's going to need to get money for the patent, but if he's trademarking, that's an entirely different type of intellectual property for like the name that he's using. So if you're going to start talking about fees for intellectual property, just make sure you understand it as intellectual property. And we can help you with that in your rocket coaching. Yeah, he's still going to need fees with that. So he should make sure that he's including everything. So they spoke well, but the slide clearly shows the solution, just like the model did out on the stage. How about this one? This goes through some of the numbers. LLC formation, that's for his company, his for-profit formation.
So this was, I think you raised the point, one that maybe like he was kind of vague. So maybe if you saw the slide while he was talking, you would have been, he did give more information.
He's got the product name in there, trademark for the product name, trademark for the company name, and then he does have his patent fees on the slide, patent attorney and his application. He's saying 10,000. Yes.
I feel like the data could be a little bigger on the slide.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for you to read that. Yeah.
Especially if you're not going to say it, right? So he didn't even mention the figures, so you definitely would want to make that bigger.
So maybe a little less of this, the size of this, and maybe make the
Yeah, and what is this?
font.
What is this even telling us?
I was asking a question about the other,
Okay.
earlier slide. What if you have concern that they've already started patenting stuff and they don't have trademarks yet, but that's so much easier to get? So why is that not already done? That takes a couple of minutes, like 60 bucks.
Right. I would wonder the same thing.
Thank you.
Because we did it in class.
I would wonder the same thing.
Okay. The judges do want to see clearly defined numbers, an estimate of what you think. So even though some of you might like that it was vague, they do want to see the numbers. If you don't want to say the numbers, then at least have the numbers identified on your slide. And show that you've done some research to be able to come up with those numbers. And then, in this one, he had a quote, "This product has been a life changer for me and has been pivotal in helping me manage my back pain." That's from James Lorry. It's a post-back pain surgery patient. It shows that it's been used. And there's feedback on it. What do you think?
At the top it says Q&A, and there's no Q&A.
Well, it's time for Q&A.
Oh,
There is Q&A.
So it's like his end slide, but I see what you mean. Yep.
They never go over like when you're supposed to wear it, like during exercise or like all the time.
So that could be a question, right? That, I mean, that could be a question for in the Q&A, but I did not hear that specific thing mentioned, right?
Should we have a slide with all like customers' quotes or reviews instead of going on the last slide? I feel like that.
To have comments or quotes from patients.
It's only one person. That person's an outlier technically because by one person. If you have multiple people use it, then you put on a separate slide and see like all the people actually use it.
Could be.
Or maybe a chart or a graph from those that have used it and have found it to be helpful.
Yeah,
And
I just think overall, I don't like
Yeah.
quote to be there.
does bring home like a personal touch, but you're right. The question here might be, why is there just one and not, you only talk to one person? You only have limited number of slides, and again, at some point it gets too wordy, but.
So I think what their purpose was is to be able to show, and I'm not sure that this does this exactly, I think there's probably a better way to do it, to show that you've talked to people, people see that your product or your idea has value, or that they have used it. And so I think that's what their purpose was in this, but we want to show the judges that you've talked to potential customers or potential people that need what you have. Thought of. All right, should we do another one?
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to.
Here's all the bunch of backup slides
Yeah,
they have.
let's just go on to the next. Because we want to make sure we give time for one or more of you to work on presenting a pitch, a draft of your pitch. So this one, you want to do BioBubble, or do you want to do one of the ones that?
Yeah, no, let's do this.
You want to do this one?
Hello, my name is Noel Khan, and my name is Rachel Paquette, and today we'll be talking to you about the BioBubbler. I went to Haiti in January in order to implement the first BioBubbler system, and while I was there, I saw the true need for a water sanitation system in Haiti. I saw children as young as 4 and 5 going to their local water well in order to obtain their water for the day. These water wells are shallow, surrounded by trash and sewerage, containing water that no child or person should be obligated to drink. On another occasion, one of our friends did not show up to the Haiti Development Center because the night before she had bleach into her water, that it caused her and her family to be rushed to the hospital. These occurrences are normal in Haiti and opened my eyes to the true need for a reliable and inexpensive water sanitation system. I will now pass it on to Noel, who will talk about the BioBubbler and the other problems.
So one of the major waterborne diseases in Haiti comes from bacterial diarrhea, and about 7% of the population tend to die from that. So their current problem right now with the sanitation system is that it's very expensive. There's an osmosis system that can be taken down there, but there's technology needed for that. There's electricity needed for that, which they don't really have much of. Another way of sanitizing their water is the chemicals that Rachel talked about. Again, that's a problem because people got sick from it and so much of the population is dying each year. So here's our BioBubbler. This one was our original design, but after doing a little bit of marketing research, we realized that the people of Haiti want something to look like an actual bubbler, just like that one, because it shows that you're wealthy in Haiti. People in Haiti that are wealthy actually have clean water through a bubbler. So it's made from completely indigenous materials, such as a banana bark tree trunk. It purifies water by just the means of sand. Regular beach sand is okay to use. There's no harsh chemicals or advanced technology. Again, the advanced technology is the osmosis system, which is a lot of people in Haiti are not able to afford that. And it's inexpensive to produce. It costs $3 to produce one BioBubbler. There's almost no maintenance. If the sand gets too dirty, all you have to do is swirl it with a stick. So as of now, we haven't had to do that, and we've implemented one in October. And last but not least, education enables scalability and sustainability. That's a very big point because we have 4 Haitian students right now in Haiti helping us out, and we would love to give them some scholarship money. And there, we actually have these made. These are how-to flyers for the people of Haiti, and the 4 Haitian students are helping us out with this. They're giving them, they're actually giving these to people in Haiti and showing them how it's made. So these students know how to speak English and Creole. So they're able to communicate to the people of Haiti as me and Rachel can. So some of the positive outcomes for the BioBubbler, we have already designed 7 BioBubblers. 5 of them are implemented in Haitian homes, and 2 of them are back at the center, and we're doing more research on them, and we're doing more testing. So we are using, right now, we're using water-safe bacterial kits, but they're very basic kits, and we would love to get more advanced kits. This kind of brings us into our resources. So under $5,000, there's a lot we can do. We can get more advanced kits that we would like. We are able to give each Haitian student $100. That's plenty for them. An average Haitian person makes about $300 a year. So if we can give them at least 100, that's plenty for them. Another thing we would like to do is make a bio-bubbler that actually looks like a bubbler. So that money can be used for that. Another resource is the additional filter units. We just need additional units just for us, just to do more advanced testing on them and to continue. Thank you.
Okay, so thoughts, how'd they do? What did you like, not like, what could they improve?
Start with like, they went to the fields, they went and they saw, they gave first-hand experiences with that work. And what I didn't like is she kept saying they're doing advanced testing, but never specified what they're testing, why they need to test a specific thing. It was like advanced testing.
Okay, so you like the fact that they had done some work in terms of getting out in the field and talking to people and seeing the problem, but they were a little vague maybe on this advanced testing. Again, you only have 5 minutes, so you can't give a whole thesis on it, but yeah, maybe there's more information that they could have included, okay? What else?
I suppose they're probably a nonprofit, but even as a nonprofit, there was no like mention of revenue stream or how they're gonna stay in business. You know, there was also wasn't much talk on how they're producing each month for $3. So I don't know how that's working out.
Right, so that gets to this point I made earlier. So you definitely want to have an understanding. Are you for-profit, non-profit? Where's the money going to come from? Who's going to pay for this, right? So if you think if you're acting like it's a for-profit company, but you're selling something to a customer base that clearly can't afford it, you got to work through your business model. What else? How did you understand the problem they're trying to address? Is that fairly clear?
So I pulled the slide up as we could, because what you did is you heard the pitch, but these slides were going on in the background. So this would be the first slide, which they describe the problem. The statistics are there about how many people die and why they're dying, related to the water problems, and why the problems exist, why they maybe can't get clean water because of the expensive technology, the harsh chemical sanitation, etc. This was one of the other second slides where you kind of see it in her pitch, right, in the video, but they tried to show through an illustration what their bio-bubbler would look like. So what do you think about this? Where I said, even if you don't, if you have an idea that there's an item that you're pitching, you don't have to have that model up on the stage, just some kind of illustration. So what do you think about this? Yes?
I just don't understand how the sand purifies the water.
Yeah, I struggled with that too.
Yeah, I wish she went through all of
So how could they have shown that?
a diagram maybe, or
Cycle, how it goes.
Right? Yes?
I was gonna say maybe like a mock-up in SolidWorks rather than an illustration.
Oh, that's good. Those are good ideas. Because they've obviously thought about it for some time. We're hearing about it for the first time, right? Just like the judges will. You've worked with your idea for a very long time. They're hearing about it for the first time, and they're hearing only 5 minutes of it.
They did do something really good though, that they incorporated the feedback almost in real time, right? So they talked about how they had an initial idea plan for the design, and then by talking to people, they realized they had to modify the design in an important way. So that shows that, again, it goes back to your point, they're out there talking to people, potential users, getting important feedback on how they can modify it.
Charts like this, showing the results of their tests too, that's also very helpful to visualize rather than just talking about it. And then they talked about the resources that they need and where they're
general sense on these two was that the pitch, the verbal part on the first one was better, but the slides were better on this one. That's again, just if I were looking at it just from the standpoint that the first one, the pitch itself was stronger potentially, but the slides are not so good. I thought these were very good slides, but their pitch was not as quite as polished as the first one.
So, do you want to go to that other pitch that, or do you want them to pitch?
We want you guys to do something. So on here, there is a short video, which we won't show, but you're going to get the slides. So this is, I show this in some of my classes. Great example. It's a business plan competition. He gives a pitch, very short. It's like 2 minutes. So go through. I encourage you to go through, watch it. He seems he's prepared. He addresses the problem clearly. He has distinct customers he's talking about. And he demonstrates something which we haven't really talked about yet, but if you can, it's sort of on the resource slide also, is this concept of traction. What's traction? Many of you aren't going to have this because your ideas are so new. Can you raise your hand? No. Oh, you must know. What's traction?
So a bit of a proof of concept to show that it's working.
So not only that it's working, but even more importantly than that, most of the people have demonstrated so far.
People support you.
What's that?
People support your idea.
Yeah, they support it, right? So people, and so there's different various levels. So the best level of support, which you probably none of you are going to have, well maybe you do, is what? What's the best way you can demonstrate that people like your idea and supporting your idea? Growth in what? Sales, right? You have sales, right? So sales is best. Then you start moving down to, okay, maybe not sales, but maybe you've got things like what? You don't have sales, what might you have? Surveys, right, market research you've done, right? Personal testimonials, things like that. So if you incorporate some elements of that definitely helps your pitch.
Hello guys, my name is Moya, and I'm here today with Sharice and Max, and we're today starting USD card. So current grocery stores technology is inefficient and takes time. Imagine yourself getting ready for a party, mixing ingredients or to rush to the grocery store, and then you're stuck to long lines, whether it was a weekend, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., you're rushing. Then you see the long lines, whether it was express or the regular grocery store, the regular lines, and you're stuck with either waiting in there or just ordering online, which takes another 30 minutes. Through the survey we've done, a lot of people don't like doing online shopping because it takes time and they don't like people touching their food, and only closer to 10-15% of people do actually their groceries shopping online. So that's where we came with our new technology, which is gonna enable us to just do the shopping through the shopping cart.
And our target audience is from like 18 to 35 or tech-savvy elders. And then we're targeting a population of like pretty much cities or areas of large populations. And our competitors, we've looked at Amazon Go, and recently, like a week ago, Microsoft teamed up with Walmart to try to implement a more efficient shopping experience using AIs and other more expensive technology. So we are on the cheaper end of things, and we are helping smaller companies compete with big corporations like Walmart and Amazon. And based on the surveys that he spoke of before, it's like out of 100 people, 92 people had spent more than 5 minutes in waiting in the grocery line. 73% of those people avoided the grocery stores due to the fact that they just didn't have the time and they could not wait. And then another 73% of people just refused to buy their groceries online because they just do not like the idea of that.
So with this being said, the clear solution would be for us is having a grocery shopping cart with a smart technology implemented out there. Instead of doing the technology outside the grocery store, we would have it implemented into this cart where you can grab your cart, go around the store, and then you can just pay right there. So it will be a self-checkout system where you can scan it, everything, and you put it and go home to your kids and you would spend less than 5 minutes up there. You don't need to go to self-checkout or any other places. And you don't need to wait in line, just grab your card, and that's it. I believe we provided the solution for it and bringing unique time that we spent in the grocery store back to you and your kids or your family, or maybe you have other things to do, or maybe you have nothing to do, you want to spend more time with it. I think the big competitor for now is Amazon Go, which is implementing the huge technology with not scanning anything. You just grab something and go, and you'll pay after you leave the store. And as Shanice mentioned, Microsoft, they implemented this, trying to implement the system with a Walmart, which is a competitor. As well as that I know, Stop and Shop, they have a scanning gun that you can use as a mobile scanning system. And I think our solution will stand out over time because we'll grow with grocery stores, and it's easy to implement because you don't need to buy any other implementation, whether our solution was a smart lock for the shopping cart. For us, that's it. Thank you.
Good, for the first time, let's go through each step. So what did you think out there? What did the audience think? Did you think that they clearly identified their problem? Yeah, no one likes to spend any more time than necessary in a grocery store, right? Any comments on that? How about the opportunity? So, what is it that, how will they solve the problem? You talked about a scanning device. So I think for me, it would be helpful to see something. You couldn't do it tonight, but to have a visual of that, because you talked about being able to scan your groceries, and I'm trying to figure out, is there like a scanner that's attached to the cart that like I scan the groceries myself, or do you just like put them in the cart?
So,
Let's get your time, please finish before 5 minutes.
so the scanning gun or the scanning system would be all around the perimeter of the cart,
Yep.
as well as in the front. So you don't need to do anything. You just you take the item and you close it, just put it back in the cart, and it will scan automatically by the barcode on the side. Or whether it's big.
Oh, so there's like a scanning, oh, see, so that's something
Yes,
I didn't understand.
it's
Did
more,
other
it's
people
more
understand?
visual than.
Okay, yeah. So the whole cart has a scanning mechanism. Okay. So then my next question is, if you're getting produce, how does the cart know how to read the produce? Because we normally weigh the produce, and there's always a code, right?
We have that, what it's gonna do is input the same way when you're at the self-checkout on the card, you take produce item will show up, you pick it, and then you put it in, and hopefully we'll talk about the weighing. Yeah, you just have the card.
Outside of the cart itself, right? Because it's probably got a lot of weight in the cart from the other products that you put in already. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yes, yes.
What if you decide, I have a couple questions. What if you decide you don't want to buy actually garden vegetables?
That's a good question. So you're scanning the bag, or whether you can have just on the screen. So we'll have a screen where you can cancel it right there in the screen and just put it back.
My second question is, I'm a big family, so anytime we go grocery shopping, the cart's full. So if the scanning thing's around the perimeter, what happens once you reach that?
So we're gonna have a scanner toward the front where you're handing the cart. And also it's meant to be like more like a quick grab and go rather than do your whole shopping for now.
Yes.
Down the line we're gonna be expanding to bigger carts and figure out stuff.
Following off of that, if it's just grab and go, most people don't use a cart then, if they're just picking up alcohol things.
I'm not agree with you because let's say you're a mom, right, and you have a lot of items, and sometimes when you go to Costco, you have a big items, so you don't want to have a small cargo packet to go there. So you have even 12 items, it's a lot for you to carry. So you can put it in the cart, and then you can just scan it and go. We're trying to make a trial with 12 or less items because it's more convenient for people just grab and go by 5 p.m., 6 p.m., whether it's like rush hours. rather than just spend the whole weekend on the grocery.
You, me. All right. I think like moving on, you have to look at like what the future is going to look like. So companies have often like, been successful by trying to figure out what they think their market and their industry is going to look like in 10 years, and then go from there. And like so the same concept of do we want faster horses or do we want a car? Like people don't like other people touching their groceries or delivering to their house right now. But I'm assuming there was a time people didn't want other people growing their own vegetables. So like that, like the culture around that might change at some point. My other concern is like hardware costs. Like, it sounds like Amazon's solution doesn't involve any hardware or maybe a very minimal amount. Shopping carts don't cost that much money. They get hit by plow trucks all the time. Going back to that. So like if there's like $2,000 shopping carts, like the overhead investment might be huge. So you might need to figure out how that's going to be.
So the actual technology we're implementing is not going to be that expensive, and also it's going to be much cheaper than implementing all the AI and sensors Amazon Go is working on in their store. They have like cameras all around. If you look in the ceiling, it was something we looked into, and then the monitor and we're going to be like using something like Arduino, something to use the scanner and everything. And the card already exists.
It's a good question because a lot of people, they don't see what is like backstage, right? But Amazon, they released a video of how the store works in total, because you just see the one like rail. You can tap your phone or like using your Amazon account, you just go. But you don't see, as Moy mentioned, a lot of cameras and sensors all around. So it's quite expensive store, and for now it's not paying back.
Sure. I think so. Like when comparing yourself with Amazon, it's really tough because Amazon's like,
this is
their revenue stream and their profit margins are all about not making a profit. They're really not doing that well in those aspects because like the company aspects of how company profits is changing in the last few years. So you might want to look at like the investment because Amazon can afford to lose like billions of dollars on a program where a startup can't afford that initial loss.
See, that's fair, but also there's no other technology to really compare us to, other than self-service checkout, which barely works. Especially like standing in line, which defeat the purpose.
And I a little bit not agree with him. So additionally to those technologies, one company they trying to build and try in New Jersey. They have like a smart shopping cart, but they use cameras and it's bulky and expensive. So what they're doing is not implementing the small piece to the cart, but they're recreating the whole cart. So which is the labor cost is enormous.
All right, I'm gonna just cut it off there.
Thank
You
you for your
guys are
questions,
welcome
yeah.
to stay after, but we're a little past
Thank you.
7:30. Yeah, and thank you for volunteering.